went, "Can you smell burning?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can smell burning." And literally I just heard, "Lucy, your wig's on fire." And I was like, "Oh my God." And
Hi guys, welcome back to Interval Conversations. I'm so happy to be joined today by the wonderful Lucy Thackwray. So Lucy, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, could you
Great.
please tell us how you first got involved in the wonderful Dram circuit?
Basically, I did a degree at University of Cumbria. I did musical theatre and dance performance, and then after I graduated, I kind of took a year out of like musical theatre and dancing, due to personal reasons. And then after a bit of a traumatic time in my life, I lost my confidence, not only just like in performing, but obviously personally. Um, but basically, I was aware of like the Amdram circuit in Harrogate because I did go to a lot of the shows when I was in high school. My drama teacher in high school was actually in Deanery Players, and I went to a lot of their shows. So like they did like summer holiday. I remember seeing them in Oklahoma and stuff like that. And it kind of made me think, oh, I kind of want to be in that sort of circuit. And plus, it was different age ranges and different sort of people from different backgrounds. So it was quite interesting seeing how they kind of grouped together and they've all had the same hobby. And then my godmother's daughter, she was in Harrogate Operatics, and I saw them do Sister Act, which was absolutely outstanding. It was I think that was their most well sold out show, and they sold out literally through word of mouth, which was absolutely brilliant. And I went with my grandma, and I just sat and went, "Wow, this is so good!" And it was because for an amateur group, it looks so professional. And also my friend at uni, she did it with her theatre group back in Carlisle. And if you compared the both, they were exactly the same in their own way. But if you kind of just bought the ticket and didn't know they were amateur, you probably would have thought they were professionals. It was that good. Um, and then they were looking for tap dancers for Top Hat, which was my first show with Harrogate Operatics. They were looking for tap dancers. So I was a bit like, okay. And I was a bit nervous because obviously I'd lost my confidence when it came to dancing and performing and stuff like that. So I went to the launch night, which was scarily at the Harrogate Royal Hall, which is a massive, really massive, big posh venue. And that's where the show was going to be performed. And I got there and there was like all these people. I knew a few faces, like familiar faces, but I was a bit like, oh, okay. And I was really nervous. And then Mike introduced himself, which is our director and choreographer. And I remember Craig, who was our MD, but he stopped about a year ago due to just like what family commitment and all that. And they were kind of like a bit like really confident, and it was a bit overwhelming. So I was a bit like, oh, okay, I've never, and because everybody knew each other and everyone had their own conversations and friendship groups, I was a bit of an outsider. But luckily, I was sat on a table with the other newbies, should I say? And one of them was called Clive, and Clive was just like, "Oh, are we the newbies table?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, cool." And then we before top hat rehearsals, we were asked to do some ballroom and tap classes. Well, I've done tap since I was 5 years old, so I was a bit like, well, I'll go anyway because like obviously I know my tap dance and stuff like that, but I'll go just for a laugh and just to get to know everybody. And I got there, and obviously Clive was there, and we were kind of like, oh, the newbies at the new classes and stuff like that. And I came with my friend Caitlin, and both of us were good tap dancers, and they had the beginner side and the like more advanced side. And it was just nice to like get to know different people and like different backgrounds. Like there's loads of people in Harrogate Practice. There's teachers, there's accountants, there's people who fly hot air balloons and stuff like that. And it was just nice to hear different backgrounds. And then also when we did the ballroom dancing, obviously ballroom is quite physical um dance style, so obviously you've got to work close to a partner, so obviously it was quite nice to mix up with all the gentlemen and stuff like that. So yeah, I think joining Amdram was probably the best thing I've ever done really in my life, because it's made me open up to like loads of friendships. and just meeting different new people, and also just getting on stage and doing it for fun. Because in the past, before joining Hops, I was doing a lot of performing for grades and obviously exams and like getting graded at the end of it, and it was obviously get a bit intense about it. Whereas this time, obviously, yeah, it's still intense because you're performing to a communal or like community audience of the Harrogate and anyone around us, and obviously you still get the same notes, but you don't have that pressure of you're going to get graded at the end of it. So it's quite nice to do it as a hobby and enjoy it, and obviously get more involved in it, not just performing, but obviously in the committee as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I kind of got involved with the societies and all that.
Yeah. Do you have any personal highlights of shows from over the years as well? So you mentioned Top Hat with all the dancing.
Yeah. What was nice about Top Hat, because obviously it was my first show, and I just thought I was going to be put in the back because everybody knew what everybody else could do and stuff like that. And what was nice is that Mike pulled me forward for little not parts, but sections where he was like, I want you to walk across the stage with this person, I want you to do this. And it brought my confidence forward as well. And also Mike didn't know that I could tap dance really well, so he was like, oh, come to the front. So I felt like I was being picked up in that way. But personal highlights is just like having backstage banter, like
Oh yeah.
again obviously with making friends and all that. During Top Hat, because obviously it was during the summer, it was absolutely boring. It was during the World Cup as well, and the fire alarm went off during the interval. So we all had to like go outside in our costumes, and we were going, okay, what do we do? And it was literally it was a false alarm. It'd gone off, and we didn't know what to do, but it was during the interval. So we thought, right, okay, it's during the interval, and there's people had to go outside. And me and this guy called Tom had a bet. We said, right, if we go in and there's no audience, you owe me a fiver. So I was like, great, okay, that's fine. So the second half started, and I walked across the stage, and I was being a maid in the Venetian hotel, and he was a butler. And there's a point during the number we cross each other and kind of like bow to each other. And I walked out, and I couldn't see the audience, so I didn't know if there was like audience or not. So he carried on. He walked past, bowed to me, and he just went, "You owe me a fiver." And I had to walk across the stage, like laughing, or going, "Oh no!" Just like little on and off stage banter that you get with people. Another highlight is probably with My Fair Lady. Just like the reaction from the audience, because obviously we had a brilliant Eliza with Nina. But like just general, I love the audience reactions when it comes to stuff like that, and especially when it comes to like dancing and like comedy scenes and stuff like that. And just the personal highlights, stuff like that, and also just again backstage banter, like vocal warm-ups, messing about in the changing rooms, or just silly things like that. But also one of my best highlights is I'm funny when it comes to heights and going up steps. And in My Fair Lady we had a balcony, and Mike went, oh, can you go up on the balcony? That was like the first rehearsal, and obviously we didn't have the balcony there. But in the get-in and the tech rehearsal, my friend Sancha, she's scared of heights, and she had to go up there, and she was like gripping onto the handle onto the banister as well, trying to like walk across it with like legs are like jelly. And then I went up thinking, no, it's fine, it's all drilled into the floor, we'll be absolutely fine. Got up there and I was like, it's wobbly, oh my god, it's wobbly. But like just being up there and like being seen higher up was like a real highlight. But also, even though I've lived in Harrogate all my life, I've never performed in Harrogate Theatre. So that My Fair Lady is my first like kind of debut at Harrogate Theatre, and that feeling was just amazing. So I've been to Harrogate Theatre so many times watching pantomimes and other shows, and then just being on like my own home stage just felt really, really nice and felt warm, and I'm excited to get back on it again as well.
Yeah. One thing that goes hand in hand with performing as well as backstage banter
Yeah.
are mishaps. Do you have any
Yeah.
onstage, backstage mishaps from over the years?
Well, on stage mishaps, I do have like not major ones, but I do have like head blanks where like we'll do a certain number and my mind just goes blank and I've completely forgotten the routine, and I'll just stand there and freeze. One time in the two mishaps have been in Top Hat, obviously first show, great first impression and all that. But in Top Hat, the first major mishap I had was in the changing rooms, and it was the dress rehearsal. And I've worn wigs before in my life, but not like proper wigs. And Richard gave all our wigs out, and he like told us how to put them on and stuff like that. And I had my wig on the wig stand, and I basically just put it to a side. And I remember one of the girls on the row next to me, she was like, "Oh, can I put the mirror lights on?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine, put them on." And I didn't realise that my wig was near one of the light bulbs. And the light
Ooh.
bulbs do get really rather hot in the Royal Hall dressing rooms. And I was just getting ready, doing my usual thing. And then the girl next to me went, "Can you smell burning?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can smell burning." And literally I just heard, "Lucy, your wig's on fire." And I was like, "Oh my God." And literally we switched the light off, and there was like a burnt ring right in the center of my wig. And I was like, "Oh no." And Richard was in the room, and this is the first time I kind of like got to know Richard. And I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna like tell me off. He's gonna tell me I'm not allowed in the society anymore." And I like proper panicked about it, and I was like, "This is my first show with them, and they're gonna hate me because I've burnt a wig through them. Obviously, it's a hired wig, and they've got to pay for it." And luckily, Richard went, "It's fine, it's fine. I'll sort it out. Don't worry about it." And he, luckily, because he's very, very clever like that, he got his sewing box out and sewed it was basically it was a full hole in the top of the head, and he managed to sew the wig back together and rip out all the burnt bits. It looked brand new. But I was just like, "Oh my God, why? Why my first show?" And then another time on stage was we were doing the flower sequence, and we had to we had to walk around in a circle, do a spin out, and then do a spin in, but then carry on walk around the circle. And my mind just completely went blank, and I went the wrong way and crashed into the woman behind me. And and then had to obviously do the whole spin round and go whoops sort of thing. And I came off stage, and I remember Mel coming up to me, and she went, "Lucy, you never go wrong." And I was like, "I know, I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened. I went blank." And I usually have brain blanks usually on the second night. First night and the rest of the other nights are absolutely fine, but it's usually the second night because you get a bit complacent. You've had a good first show, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that went really well." And then the second night, I'm like, I get into the middle of a routine that I know really well, and my mind just goes, "What am I doing next?" So yeah, they're kind of like the normal miss ups that I have, but the wig one's been my major one. I've never been so embarrassed in all my life. It's a story that's forever being told in Hops. Whenever we talk about wigs, dressing rooms, they always say, "Make sure your wigs are not near any bulbs," and I'm like, "Yes, that's fine. I know that." So yeah.
Yeah. So obviously you spent a lot of time with Hops doing these shows, and you're now on the committee as well. So how did all
Yes.
that come about?
Top Hat. When I joined Top Hat, I shared a lot of the like posts and stuff on Facebook about coming buy your tickets, come watch because we'd made a trailer for it as well. Watch the trailer, come buy tickets, or I can't wait to do the coffee morning that we do for fundraising. And Mel came forward to me at the after party after Top Hat, and she was like, "Oh, I really like the way you're active on Facebook and how you try and help market the shows." And I said, "Okay." And she basically invited me on. She said, "Oh, would you like to come on to the committee because we really like your enthusiasm when it comes to marketing the shows and stuff like that." So I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine." And I came on just literally as a committee member and didn't do anything else. And I did things like I remember my first job was doing the promotional garments for My Fair Lady, and I was really nervous because obviously it's your first job on a committee. I've never been on a committee before, so I was like, "What do I do?" Um, but Richard was really, really. I remember Richard saying, "I'm really impressed of how speed you were with the getting the garments, getting them ordered, getting everyone to pay up the money and stuff like that." And then I started doing little jobs like looking for theatre, like other societies doing the same show or booking theatre trips and stuff like that. And then obviously eventually as time's gone by, I've grown in the committee, and I'm now officially the marketing manager. So I'm in charge of all the social media pages. I do the program editing, any posters. I'm doing the garments for Kinky Boots as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to get going with that. Obviously, it's a new thing for me, so I've got a lot to learn with that, and there is a lot to learn. Because, for example, we're doing all the sponsorships and getting businesses to be in our program. and that I've never done that before, so that's really hard. But I'm learning as I go along, and it's all a learning curve at the end of the day when you're on the committee. But I enjoy it. We've got a good team on. Obviously, a lot of committees are going to have like the negatives and the positives, but we have a very good strong team. Everyone gets to voice their own opinions on things and have their own say when it comes to the meetings. And I think it's quite a strong committee we've got there for hops. Yeah, I will say that.
Good to
Yeah.
it. Now, you mentioned as marketing manager, you do the program editing as well.
Yes.
Remember right? Did you forget to put your name in the kits?
Yes.
On
That is another mishap. Well done for pointing that out.
yeah.
Yes. I was editing the program for KIPS, which unfortunately was cancelled this year, 2020. And I got everybody's names. I made sure everyone's names were spelt right. Had to do all the corrections and proofread it all. And I had a small part. I was Miss Ross in the woodwork scene,
Oh
and
yeah.
I also was in the chorus. And I'd put everyone's name in, did it all, and then obviously it got cancelled. And Richard said, just as like a souvenir to remember that we actually did the rehearsals, and just kind of like a little memory thing, sentimental. And I went to go pick up my program, my copy of the program at Richard's house, social distancing obviously. And he said, there is something that you didn't check. And I was like, oh no, and I thought, have I spelt someone's name wrong, or like someone's missing? He went, you didn't put your own name down. I was like, what? So I like quickly opened up the program. Went, yeah, you put yourself down as Miss Ross, but you're not in the chorus, and you actually are in the chorus. And I was like, oh no, one mistake. Like I got it all right, but then I was too busy worrying about getting other everybody else's name in the program, but not mine. Yeah, that was another mishap in hops. So I will say that.
And say, did I manage to get into that program as well? Because I was meant to be.
Yeah, in the understudy, yes, you were in the program. I got that right. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not my own name.
So, you have been involved in a couple of projects Hops has been doing this year, and
Yeah.
Hops has done something that I am very jealous of. You got back on stage. So it's coming up a year
Yes, we
since I
did.
was last on stage, but you guys did it recently with the wonderful musical Squares. So could you tell us all about that and how it came about? What was the process like?
Yeah, so obviously, this year's been a very difficult year. We obviously had to cancel KIPS due to the COVID pandemic, and obviously, it caused a lot of upset. Everyone was devastated, heartbroken, especially for Rich because he'd only just joined us last year to be KIPS, and obviously we asked him onto the society to be KIPS, and obviously we made a really good friend with him, and he was very like humble about it all, and he's a lovely guy. And it was just really heartbreaking for him to be given this part, and he really wanted this part, and he did so well with the part, and then go, yeah, we're not doing it anymore. But again, with new people joining as well, it was nice because I made quite a lot of new friends, lifelong friends through KIPS as well. So it was really heartbreaking to say we're suspending rehearsals, and then obviously eventually saying we're cancelling the whole show. And then as the months have gone on, obviously we're all saying that we miss being on stage, miss just having a sing song and like general dancing and stuff like that. We did like virtual dance classes, but again, it's just not the same when you're not with your friends and having a bit of banter. And me and Claire Pascal, she Pascal, sorry, she'll slap me if I pronounce the second name wrong. We kind of like we're quite a good creative team because we did the virtual Tuesdays together, and we work really well. So she's put forward a few other projects that we're doing behind the scenes, and she just said, oh, I'm thinking of trying to get the hops back together, even if it's just a rehearsal where we sing together, just something to just get us back in the rehearsal room and do some form of singing, dancing, or just being together in the same room, obviously under the safe restrictions. So she came forward with this whole idea of just doing a choir or a dance, like almost like a rehearsal for something, but even if it doesn't go anywhere, at least we're in the same room together. And eventually, as the ideas kind of folded, we then thought, right, if we do a rehearsal, why don't we do a rehearsal towards something that could be a final show? So that's when we came up with a concert sort of style show. And I explained to her, I said, Hops usually do a concert in the winter anyway, because we did a Disney concert not so long ago, a couple of years ago actually. And she said, why don't we do a concert style? So but it also brings everybody can have have a sing song, not just like the same people who get main parts gets to sing. People from who usually in the chorus can come forward and actually have their solo spot in the time in the spotlight sort of thing. And that's when we came together and brought up. Claire wrote musical squares, and I was like really impressed with the script. And the whole idea of musical squares was it was kind of like Hops's way of telling the story of what's been going on throughout the pandemic. And we used Claire's idea was using this different speeches that Boris Johnson has been given throughout the pandemic, and we use like songs from certain musicals that kind of correlate with what's going on with this situation. And that's when she came out with all the different songs. So we're doing 9 to 5, Positive, You'll Be Back, from all the different big musicals. And then obviously she put the proposal forward at the committee, and some people were a bit like, oh, I'm not sure, people might not feel safe about doing it. So that's when she did a survey and she asked the simple questions of, would you feel comfortable being in a rehearsal room with loads of people? Would you be happy to do a show? Would you be happy to do some rehearsals, but even if it doesn't lead to a show, at least you're doing something? And then we had to come up with the whole idea of how to make it COVID safe. So then we thought the idea of squares. Now we've seen like other dance schools doing dance lessons with squares, and obviously to keep the 2 meters apart. And we thought, right, we'll obviously keep that element, but why don't we turn it into a musical squares concert? Because obviously it's all about the squares. And then we called it the COVID concert as well, because obviously we wanted to keep it relevant to what's happening at the moment. And then the first rehearsal, we all thought it was going to be a first rehearsal and they're going to announce another lockdown and we're all going to end up being back in our houses. And it was just so nice to be like just together, even though we weren't close together and we couldn't give each other a hug or go up to each other and put our arms around each other. It was just nice to be in a room together and just hear everybody sing. And it was just you almost felt like you wanted to cry at one point, because you were like, oh my god, we're singing together and we sound really good, and I haven't heard this in a long time, like 6 months without singing, without like in a group. And then we got to and then obviously with the dancing, I was the choreographer for it. So that was my debut for choreography, and I've never done that before. So that was a challenge for myself. I really enjoyed it actually, because I got to be, because I'm quite a shy person. I'm quite quiet. I'm not really in your face. I'm just in myself. And it was just nice to like have a voice in this massive group of people and take the lead as well, because I don't like being in charge of things. Like, I'm just like, leave it for you to do it. But it was just nice to take the lead, be in charge, and also show my skills that I've not really shown everybody else. And then it got to about the 5th or 6th rehearsal, and me and Claire looked at each other and we were like, we're actually like doing really well with this. So that's when we started thinking about putting on a show and advertising it and selling tickets. And the original plan was to do it in the first weekend of November, and we were doing so well, and we were keeping up. Claire read the government guidelines like it was the morning newspaper every morning, and we got to probably towards the end of October, and it was my birthday. I remember it was my birthday when Boris announced that we were going into a second lockdown. And I remember bursting into tears going, no, another show cancelled, like 2020 is just not our year for Hops. And I got really upset, and Claire was like, no, it's fine. Claire's the opposite. She's just like, right, what's the next thing to go forward? And she straight away was like, right, we're going to push the show to the Tuesday, which was the Tuesday just before the second lockdown. And we're going to put on a show. We're going to do it. And we're just going to, it's a last resort sort of thing. So I remember the Monday we did a last minute rehearsal of polishing everything, making sure that we recapped. Jim, our musical director, was willing enough to cook, because he travels from Sheffield, I think it is, or somewhere down in South Yorkshire, and he gave up his time to actually help us and put it all together, which was brilliant. And the Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, we had an audience, all socially distanced, masks on, washing the hands, checking the temperature. That's all the stuff that we did for rehearsals as well as the audience. And literally 8 o'clock, music started, and it was just such a good feeling just performing. It was a 45 minutes performance, but it was just such a good feeling to actually do a live performance in front of physical audience, and also the audience felt the same. Like, it was nice to be sat not in a fancy auditorium, it was a village hall, but it was better than nothing. But just sat in a village hall, sat in a seat, watching live theatre right in front of them. And we've missed it so much. And then I remember at the end, we bowed, and Richard, our chairman, came forward to like say his thank yous like he does. And he couldn't speak. He was in tears. He was like bawling his eyes out. And I looked at him, and he was just like, thank you everyone. And he couldn't speak. And then they came forward. I remember Tracy, our secretary, she came forward with 2 big bunches of flowers, and he said he couldn't even say anything. He just gave the flowers to me and gave the other bunch to Claire. And I just went, and then because he was crying, it made me cry, and I was like and we just stood there crying. And I remember I was thinking the audience think we probably got something wrong with us. And then in the end, he just eventually got his breath together, and he was like, thank you to the choreographer Lucy and the director Claire, thank you very much. And obviously let the audience out. And then over lockdown, I remember me and Claire saying, we can't just leave it as just one show, like we need to try at least get it back. And we'd been in the advertiser as being a triumph, so we were kind of pleased with that. And I remember Claire saying, that's an achievement, but I want to do more with it, and I want to not take it further, but do it again just one last time, just kind of like as a finish off, because obviously Panto had been cancelled at Christmas parties couldn't do that, so we wanted to at least just do something just to finish off the year and bring it to a nice end. And obviously luckily we came out the second lockdown at the beginning of December. We managed to bag ourselves a slot at the Harrogate Ladies College, and they kindly let us have the venue for free. And we managed to do 2 shows at the Harrogate Ladies College on the Saturday, and the seating was all socially distanced again, and the performers all had to wear visors throughout the whole procedure as well. And that again, it was just such a nice, because we had Christmas songs on as well for everyone to walk in on, and it was just such a nice feeling to be back like in a theatre doing live performances, being together. And me and Claire we didn't really feel like we'd achieved anything until the night after the night we finished, because obviously after the show we usually have an after show party, but we came home and obviously we just sat in our own homes drinking wine, whatever. And me and Claire were like, it feels a bit sad that we can't go to the pub afterwards or go for a meal and like celebrate it. And then that's when we started going, but we've actually achieved a show in 2020 when there's a pandemic, and we've done it safely. Touch wood, nobody got tested positive, nobody came ill, no one had to isolate. And it was just such a triumph and such an achievement. Like, we're so proud of ourselves, and we're both teaming up together to do other projects together, for future reference for the next year or two, or well, depending how well we go with it. And it was just such a good achievement. And the fact that Richard said he can't believe that Hops, out of like throughout the Harrogate district, we're the first society to actually put a show on after the pandemic and actually do something. And we also live streamed it, well, not live streamed it, we put it on Zoom as a video showing for members who weren't able to buy a ticket or weren't able to actually come over to Harrogate and watch it. And we did it via Zoom, and we had 40 links on the Zoom, which was brilliant. So there was loads of people on there, including Les, who is our NODA representative, and he came on and he said he thought it was brilliant. So we're all very proud of ourselves, what we've done, and obviously we're now aiming to get onto the next show, which is Kinky Boots. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, because I was going to ask as well, what is next for Hops? Are there obviously Kinky Boots? It's coming up in June. Are there any projects you're allowed to mention?
At the moment, with Kinky Boots, we're a bit unsure what to do with it at the moment, obviously due to the fact we're in a 3rd lockdown at the moment. So we're in discussion of what to do going forward, whether to postpone or anything like that. But it's still in discussion. We still want to do it because obviously it's a huge show. We can't let go of it, and and obviously Richard's made all the costumes, so we can't let them go to waste. But we can't, obviously I can't discuss anything further with being on the committee, but we are trying to see what we can do to keep it there, because we're not cancelling another show. We can't do what we did with Kips because it was just too upsetting, it's too devastating. But we are hopefully trying to do something with that, and we're just going to try keep the social side up as well, because obviously one thing Hops is really, really good at is making sure that everyone has a social side to it. So we go out to the pub, go to the theatre together, we all meet up in people's gardens. We had a barbecue last summer. So yeah, we're just going to try and make sure that we come back together socially, and then obviously work on a next show and go forward from there, really, and grow.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see what Hops comes out with. But
Yes, of course.
I just have one last question for you. So,
Okay.
what advice do you have for anyone who is thinking of getting into Amdram once it's safe and wants to do this?
Yeah, my one advice is to literally just enjoy it. Like, don't. I know a lot of people go into theatres or show, like theatre groups or shows, and their main aim is to get a part and do a show. I'm somebody I've never I don't I've had main parts in the past, but like I'm not bothered if I don't get it or not. But just advice going forward that even if you don't get the part you want, just enjoy it, because the people around you are there to do the same thing, and they're all from the different work backgrounds, um, life backgrounds, gender, age, anything like that, and they become your friends. They become like people that you confide in, or like when we come into rehearsals, it's your time to switch off and like do something you all enjoy. So just embrace it, embrace the show, embrace what part you give, what you're given, embrace all the rehearsals you have, because they're, even though obviously you're working towards a show, the banter, the fun, the pictures you take, the silly times, like the inside jokes you have, just embrace it and really enjoy it, because what I've missed so much during this pandemic is just that, having that joy and that fun and that social side, and you almost become a family. Like I always say to people, Hops is my second family, because I've missed them so much during this pandemic. I've missed just having banter, even though we are seeing each other virtually via Zoom. It's not the same, because obviously you want to give them a hug, give them a high five, kick them when they're like, just to be silly, or push them over in rehearsals. Like just the silly things like that. We just miss silly banter, physical banter, and but also just remember that obviously everyone's in the same, um, enjoying the same hobby, but they become your life friends. Like I know that if I ever do get married, when I get married, that I will be inviting quite a lot of my Hops friends to my wedding, because they're my lifelong friends, and I can tell them anything. I can talk to them about anything, and I know that they're not going to judge you. Like I always think that people in theatre, nobody judges anybody, because everyone from different walks of life enjoys theatre, and obviously I went to university and there was loads of different walks of life, diverse people, and you're all there for the same hobby, and you just enjoy each other's company and enjoy each other's talents as well. You learn a lot of things as well from different people, like learning different ways of dancing, how to sing properly, different acting techniques, and just obviously enjoy it, educate yourself, and just embrace embrace the friendships that you have there, and don't take it for granted either. So obviously through the pandemic, I've taken that for granted, and I do miss them dearly. And obviously missing doing a show, just that feeling of being on stage, being under the spotlight, being different characters in your costume and your wig and your makeup, and singing all these amazing songs that musical theatre have produced, and having that feeling when you see the audience and the clapping, and just that theatrical atmosphere as well. Just even when you're backstage as well, just having backstage banter, putting your makeup on, throwing someone's costume across the room because you're late for your quick change. Just them sort of like little funny memories that you have at the back of your head every day. So yeah, that's my advice. Just embrace it, enjoy it, and don't take it for granted, especially when you're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, Lucy, that has been some brilliant advice. Thank you so much for joining me today. Been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me and asking me to join you.
Yeah, it's all right. And thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode.